Think of an idea and live it for your life. Dream it, think it, and live the idea, and you achieve success. This was a beautiful quote that I just read here, where I am here today in the campus of MIT Group of Institutes. It brings me immense pleasure to welcome you all to Futolearn Exchange Expertise. I, Sejal Samar Jodhawat, CMO of Futolearn, welcome you all to the Group of Institutes, and we are here with an interactive session with Professor Swati Chate, the Trustee and the Secretary General of the Meyer Trust. Of course, indeed, with a vision founded by Dr. Professor Vishwanath D. Karad, with a deep root of science, religion and spirituality, who got education live. We are here to interact with ma'am and to know about the journey, as well as to understand how the vision of education can move forward. We welcome you, ma'am, and it gives me immense pleasure, and thank you for this opportunity for getting us this platform where we would want the entire fraternity to know more about MIT Group of Institutes. Ma'am, we've heard about union of science, religion and spirituality, which can bring peace to mankind. Would you like to throw a little more light upon this thought of Dr. Karad, as well as if you could tell us a little journey about MIT Group of Institutes, the Meyer Trust, and of course, your life journey ahead?
Yeah. Namaskar. Thank you, Sejal. I welcome you to this MIT campus and for this interaction with me. Of course, I think it's a pleasure and it's an honor for me also to interact with you on this platform. Of course, because MIT, the name itself is, I think so, today in education space, if you talk about MIT is the name from kindergarten to the post-graduation, and we are there. And I'll be very happy to share with you the entire journey of MIT, how it started. Very briefly, I can tell you that Professor Dr. Vishwanath Karad, who is the founder chairman of this organization, he himself was a professor of mechanical engineering in College of Engineering, Pune for 20 long years. And it's his passion, and probably he's such a visionary that at that age, in his 20s, he could see, and when he was teaching, and in his 30s rather, he saw that Maharashtra was not having the private engineering colleges in the state, and the students used to go to other states for doing their engineering. And I feel that he had seen that how industry will need number of engineers in the coming years. With that thought, he came up with this article in the Maharashtra Times newspaper, and then he approached the Honorable Chief Minister of Maharashtra that time, Shri Vasantdada Patil, and he himself, the leader and a very visionary leader, he really appreciated this thought. And with that, the private engineering era started in the state of Maharashtra. So Professor Vishwanath Karad, I feel he is a pioneer in private engineering colleges in the state of Maharashtra. And with that, the journey of MIT started from 5th of August 1983. The foundation was laid, and today, almost now 4 decades, MIT is into education, and now we are, 4 state private universities, number of schools, the international school, the CBSE school, the state board schools, and we are there. And it's not only about the kind of education. Of course, there are multiple people who are doing that in this education space. But the uniqueness of MIT is in its thought process. I always believed that because Honorable Karad sir had this tremendous faith and conviction in the sayings of Swami Vivekananda, that union of science and spirituality alone can bring peace and harmony to mankind. And with this thought, he laid the foundation of MIT. And every action, every activity, everything that we do in terms of imparting education is aligned with this thought process. Every institution is based on this very thought, and that's why while doing our task of the education that is being delivered in all our institutions is very much integrated with this thought process. And that's the uniqueness of MIT, that's what I believe. And because of that, probably MIT has come up with very unique institutions. To name a few, like the Music Academy, that's the by size, it's the largest in the country. It is being shared by Honorable Lata Mangeshkar ji. We have School of Vedic Sciences. That is also something very unique. I'll speak about that later. Then we have this marine engineering. We have the design school, which is highly ranked in the country. We have School of Government, which is for creating the future politicians of the country, and so on. And apart from this, I think the differentiating factor that I always had in my mind about MIT, I think I always say this, that very few institutions in the country, if you look at, they are being started by teachers, and they definitely are very unique, because I believe that education can be understood the best by a teacher. Right?
Absolutely, so it's more where we start our base with.
Yes, yes. So there are institutions like MIT. There are others who are being started by the teachers, and they are really making a mark in this field. And so MIT, it has grown in multiple folds, but it has really impacted the society at large. And that could happen because I think Karad sir, when he started MIT in 83, and then in 86 itself, he always had this inclination to give back to the society, and coming from a very spiritual background, from a family which is into this Varkari Sampradaya itself. So he initiated this, transforming the pilgrimage centers into knowledge centers, this thought process. And for that, he started this Alandi Dehu Parasar Vikas Samiti near Pune, which is the birthplace of Saint Jnaneshwara. And there he had done a lot of, transformation in terms of the health and hygiene of the devotees. They come there, and a lot of, educational activities happen in Alandi every year since last more than 30 years now. So with that, the work he initiated, and the recognition of the same was in terms of getting bestowed the UNESCO Chair for Human Rights, Peace and Democracy in 92-93, and with that he established the World Peace Center. And going ahead, I think this thought of reviving the ancient Gurukul culture, we came up with this Vishwa Shanti Gurukul schools. So this is how MIT has grown and still expanding. We are coming up with new projects, but of course it's not about how big the organization is, how strong it is. Absolutely. That's what matters. That's what I believe.
The foundation is where we are looking at. That should be very strong. Yes. And what I see, of the journey you just mentioned, I'm sure it has much more to talk about. But the little journey that you've mentioned only about Dr. Karad and the MIT group of institutes, I feel he's not left any stone unturned in terms of education. What would be the best that would go ahead? And when you just made a mention of the MIT Vedic science, I understand out of just a little thought that I have got, or a research that I would talk about you.
Yeah.
You have sown that seed into the system. So how did you come into the school setup, or how did your journey begin with this? A little about that, where 2006 I think.
Yeah, 2006 I was just in a smaller way I was involved in the activity, but slowly after that as I think it was kind of an accidental entry for me into this.
Ma'am, of course, yeah.
Though I had the inclination to contribute in this field always. After doing my engineering and after my the family responsibilities, I had my plans to enter into this, and I think probably Professor Karad he had this in mind that we should come up with this Gurukul. We should revive the Gurukul system of our country, and with that I think, because when you talk about higher education, there the children already they come from a background or they are
Correct,
already
correct.
there, right? Still we try our level best to impart different values, different things in the higher education. But if we really wish to make a change in the society, we must work in the school education space. So that was the thought I always had in my mind, and I think that's what he always also had. So with that we started this very Vishwa Shanti Gurukul schools, and I also started working. That's how my journey also had started, and of course parallelly the teacher education. Because I think unless we have the teachers who are there, who are aligned with this thought process, and what I had observed in that space is, sad thing is in our country, I think the teaching profession is not so respected as it should be, right? And there I wanted to always address all those teachers, and I tried that all to inculcate that confidence in them that they are the pillars of the society, they are the change makers.
Very true.
Because they are not, they are influencing thousands of minds who are really building the nation in turn. So they have the highest power to change any country.
Very much, ma'am. Yeah.
So I think that is the space where I always, I started, working on the teachers and the school education. And with that, my journey started. Now we are having multiple schools in state board, the international school, the CBSE schools, and we are trying to do our best there. Yeah.
Thank you. That's a wonderful, insight into your journey. So when you just started off with this journey, and when you talk about how you wanted to bring in even the teacher training education, and making sure, I've heard about you have set up institutes which are unique in whether it is food or what Vedic sciences. So are we actually looking into redefining or defining rethinking of what education is? So could you just talk about
Yeah.
people should rethink about education?
Yes. I think when we say rethinking education, it's a very vast subject. But what I myself personally believe is when we look at our country, the entire education system, and just cribbing that our country is not producing researchers and enough scientists and researchers, and innovation is not happening in our country, and we are just a we are into service provider system, right? Why is it so? I think that is where the rethinking has to get aligned with. Rethinking is in those terms. It has to go back where our education system started really, and I think it's a very deep rooted subject, because 150 years we were ruled by Britishers, right? So what was before that? When we say ancient system of India, what was it really? And why today's system is like this, that people are saying that we are not doing enough of innovation? Can we blame the children? Can we blame the teachers? No, we can't, because the entire system, how it works, how it develops the mind, what kind of training you are getting from the early age, that matters. Why innovation was happening earlier? If you look at when we say ancient era, there were a lot of innovations happening, that is why this Ayurveda is there. What is Ayurveda? That had happened only because of some research was done, right? So research was there, innovation was there, but our bad luck that the 150 years of ruling, and the education system was made in such a way that Indians should just be kind of service into the service provider system, or the clerical jobs we say. They should just confine their mind to that, and their minds have got blocked. In such a long period, anything can happen, right?
Absolutely.
So I believe we have to rethink in that manner. How do we really revive the methodology? And how do we really see to it that the education starts allowing the young minds to think, to innovate, to explore? I think there we have to start rethinking on education. That's what I feel. Yeah.
Very much, ma'am, because think, innovate, and sorry, the last word was research, right? Yeah, yeah. Think, innovate, and research. This is something that I'm going to take away today, and so when you say innovate, and for the era that we are, and especially understanding the base that you've had as a Gurukul system, but for the era that we all are into, do you really feel the online, because currently with the pandemic that we all faced into, the way we all went on to a online, way of learning, or now we are moving on to a hybrid way of learning because we're not even sure how it's going to work ahead. How would we, take a collaborative learning onto this, Gurukul system, as well as an online learning with technological space around us, because we all are already there.
Right. Yes. I think anything change is inevitable, and it has to be there. That is what is life is about, and pandemic has really changed our lives up. It has made it upside down, we can say. But there are certain plus points about the story, like as you said, technology. Technology was very much there earlier, but if you look at the education space, people were not really into that, and not were exploring it to the fullest how it is done now with pandemic. And I think that's the plus side, positive side of this entire pandemic episode in the education system, if you look at. And the technology was the survivor for us. At least we could impart education. Yeah, we could reach the students, and though there were certain lacunas, but because it was all of a sudden and everybody had to accept and learn and do it. But I feel, if you ask me, with MIT, we really had, our teachers really had done wonderfully well. They immediately accepted the change, they learnt it, and they delivered it. When I say certain lacunas, because if you look at the entire country, I really feel sad for those children who were not having the resources, and they had really they were really deprived of education for this entire more than now 1.5, rather 2 years they are deprived of education. And again, I think technology only can help us in longer run, if we in future, if something like this happens, and if we are prepared to the furthermost corner of the country, if we have the technology access, I think they will also will not get deprived in the future if something like this happens. And I think that's what is the solution also for a country like us, where there are certain challenges for education to reach to those people who cannot afford, who cannot come to the cities, or so to reach in a proper manner. Technology is the best possible way of addressing that issue. That's what I believe.
So from where you have talking about how technology can go into the deeper areas of rural areas, where, so this is where I feel we were just recently reading an article also where we do not have teachers who can go up to there and teach them. So there is something that as a technology which can come in, and maybe we have robots is what
Yeah.
So do you think that will work? And how do you think, because the entire structure of a robot that we talk about, or the technology that we talk about, is artificial intelligence. So how would you treat artificial intelligence and coding as a subject, because it's been around, it's been the buzz of the town, and since you're talking about technology as a contemporary subject, and when you talk about reaching to the the deeper areas, how far do you think this will help us develop those skills?
See, I think if we just think about our own country, there are different challenges. There can't be one solution to the problems. It has to be handled with multiple dimensions, multiple angles to it. Teacher training, the existing teachers who are there in this system, they need to be trained with multiple dimensions, because as I said, rethinking education, it goes down there as well, because right now the kind of education we are imparting, It's really not giving us the outcome that we talk about, the innovation mindset, research mindset, or the entrepreneur skills also. How technology can help us in that is when we say that reaching to the furthermost corner of the country, there the teachers probably are good, they have the knowledge being a teacher, but they lack in resources, right? So there I feel artificial intelligence or robots or whatever, I think if that technology is provided or those resources are provided to those teachers, we see that a school in a small place has only one teacher,
Right.
and multiple children,
Right.
or the children are also not getting interested because nothing much is happening. You know, the kids at a smaller place also know what is happening around the world now, but they are not getting the access to it. So if those teachers really are equipped with this technology, may it be AI, may it be robotics, may it be, and they have enough resources, one teacher also can wonderfully, you know, take care of the children, to give them knowledge, to equip them with the 21st century skills. So I think that is how it can really help, and that is the way ahead. People are scared that if technology comes into picture, probably people will not have jobs. But that is never a scenario. In 90s, when computers started entering, 80s rather, people said ki okay, now if computers come into picture, we will not have the jobs. It's never like that. Technology comes in, but a different kind of job is created for people, human beings. So technology is always for betterment. How we use it, it's up to us.
So it's like, we always quote artificial intelligence is just the extension of human mind. Yes. What we put in life to the machines that we're talking about. Yeah. And so what I take from your words would be leveraging, like you said, how we use it. So leverage the best of a machine and a human mind is what we're trying to drive. But when we talk about this technological space also, ma'am, it has been around that this technology, we are only having the students who have the technological background, or the ones who only know about computer science. So how do you see this technology, whether it is the talent or is it a systematic learning which will help the skill to develop?
Yeah, I think a really very good question. We can't separate the two things, talent and systematic learning. They go hand in hand.
Okay.
Talent is definitely required, but systematic learn, and I always believe that everybody has talent.
Okay.
Everybody has talent. It not necessary that one is talented because he or she is good in a particular subject, right? Every child, every human being has a different talent, and systematic learning is very much needed because it enhances your talent.
Okay.
So he or she probably is not really talented per se in scoring good marks in mathematics or physics or chemistry, but he or she can have a different talent which is applicable in certain other areas, and systematic learning will enhance that particular talent. So in that process, every child will will be able to explore his or her talent in a proper manner. That's why the two things go hand in hand. We can't say that only talent is necessary and then only people can go ahead, but systematic learning is more important, identifying the talent and using systematic learning to enhance that particular talent.
Oh, wonderful, ma'am.
That's what
I think has completely changed the thought process of where we say that.
Yeah, because we always correlate talent with a particular
Subject.
aspect of education.
Absolutely, that's the question that came up to me.
I think people who are into different sectors, they are also talented. They have a different kind of a talent. Yes.
Because with what has been the buzz, and with this technology understanding that we all need to do this, because we all already in that era where we all are using technology to an extent that I think none of our lives are moving ahead without this technology. But in that scenario, if this goes down to the entire system, that talent and systematic learning go hand in hand. I think every student, every parent, every educator can take this up beautifully, and we can change the entire sector altogether, because that's where we can move ahead. Is
Right. I think there comes again the role of the teacher to identify the talent in every child. So, what is talent, that we need to define first.
Okay.
What do we mean by? Then only rethinking of education will happen. Because right now our education system is very much obsessed with, scoring marks, and talent is always related with certain subjects and certain areas. So, identifying the talent, what talent means, and the teacher should be well equipped with that, then only this will be really implemented in a best possible manner. That's what I believe.